What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. I'm your host, Christian Fowler, and joining me, as always, the producer of the show, Kenny Stubblefield. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you can already see there is no Gabe Kuhn again this week. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment,
Yes,
all that good stuff. Interact with us.
do all that.
Do all of that. But Gabe, as everybody knows, or everybody should know, has a newborn baby, so that offers some challenges that don't always allow your nights to be free, which we
Yes.
totally understand. So it's me and Kenny again this week. Kenny, how are you doing before we jump into Memphis related news?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm getting old, dude. Like
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
I remember when I was a kid and the spring season would come around after the winter. Spring season would come around, my dad and I would be out in the yard mowing the grass, and I'd be out there and I'd just be mowing, doing my thing, having a good time, not worried about anything, and I would hear my dad sneezing and coughing and stuffy nose for the rest of the day, that kind of stuff. And I just always used to be like, dude, you're so old. Like, what is wrong with you? And that's me now, man. Like, I spent a lot of time in the yard this weekend. And then I cleaned out our garage, which, let me tell you, man, if you are a homeowner and want to ever feel accomplished with anything, just get into your garage and
Make
clean
it
it
look
out
perfect.
and make it look perfect. And
Yeah.
you just stand out there and just look at it like, oh,
And
this
then
feels good.
2 weeks later, it's a disaster again.
2 weeks later to that, I had to build I put shelving up in the garage. So I was able
Yeah.
to put a bunch of stuff that was on the ground. I was able to put it up on shelves and just make it look. But what it did though is it kicked up hay fever. And it's just like, man, my sinuses are insanity. And this is like the first year that I think I remember like being really affected by the pollen and affected by all the stuff in the air, more so than I've ever been. And I am struggling, man. Like it's been a rough couple of days.
Yeah, I never had allergies until like the last 2 or 3 years.
And you're not
And
even
now
old.
and it's not, mine aren't terrible. Like I'm not I have friends and family that they'll get like the super red eyes and they're just like completely out of commission. Mine's not like that. Hopefully it never gets to that point, but yeah, like I've never been like, "Oh yeah, pollen affects me," or anything. Now it has started to affect me a little bit,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
talked about getting old, and I had some recognition of getting old this weekend also.
What
So
happened?
Saturday morning, woke up at 5:30
Why?
to play golf in Tunica
Oh, you're old. Yeah.
with my friends, and I literally texted everybody, and I was like, guys, if we went back in time and we told our 15-year-old selves
Oh,
that we
100%.
were waking up at 5:30 in the morning to play golf, like we would all our younger selves would kick our current selves in the nuts immediately.
Seriously, like what the hell are you
Like,
doing,
what
man?
are you doing? Why are you playing a boring old man sport at 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday? Like, this is when we sleep and we wake up at 10, 11 o'clock and then we do something.
Yeah.
We go play football or basketball.
Yeah, you go play
Not
you no, just even a few years ago, you talked about how you used to hoop all the time, like, every
Yeah,
Saturday was hoop day for you, and
yeah,
now it's, "Let me put my collared shirt on, let me eat my greens in the morning, let me make sure
yep.
I've, loosened up the joint so I can go play some golf at 5:30 in the morning."
Yep. Woke up at 5:30 and drove to Tunica to play golf.
How is your golf game? Is it going okay?
I haven't played much this year. This was only my third time playing this year, but it was my best round. So it's
Wow.
it's kicking back up. It's getting a little more in the fold. Like I'm seeing improvements, and I know at like golf, I'm never going to be good. Like it doesn't matter how much I play. Like as a recreational golfer, I'm never going to be good, but I'm starting to become more serviceable, which
So
makes
are
me.
we talking, like, break 90 is your goal?
Oh, no, oh, I mean, yeah, that's a goal, but no, I'm not. I haven't played nearly enough golf to get there. Like, I
Uh,
just haven't. Like, I have buddies that, it's taken them a few years to get to that point where they break 90 and they play a lot more than me. Like, a lot of them have jobs where they can play during the week,
you do
Mike, I
not.
mean,
You do
Michael's a nurse, so he works 3 12s in the week. So like he has days where he can go play during the week. I don't have that luxury.
you do not.
So it's like if I don't play I can either like go late in the afternoon and play like 9 or go to the driving range, or Saturday.
Yeah.
That's it for me. So I don't get to play and practice as much as them. Hopefully I'll get there someday. But really the goal right now is to be better, like pretty decent by the time October rolls around, because for my bachelor trip, we're doing a golf trip.
Let's go. Where y'all
And so
going?
I don't want to go out there and just, I mean, everybody knows, everybody's seen me play, so I wouldn't be like embarrassing myself, but I want to go out there and just like be able to have fun and not worry about hitting the ground every 10 shots or something like that.
Where y'all going?
What is it called? Is it Crossville, Tennessee, or is that? I don't know.
Okay.
It's not where Tennessee Tech is. I can't remember if that's Crossville where Tennessee Tech is.
I don't think
Something
so.
like that. It's Crossville or Centerville or something like that. There's like 5 or 6 golf courses. It's supposed to be super nice. I have a couple of friends that have been on golf trips there. So
Wow. That'll be
that's the
fun.
plan. Yeah, we're
That'll
gonna
be
go
a good
stay in a
time.
big cabin out in the middle of nowhere and
Let's go.
play golf.
Man, I'm sorry my energy is down, dude. I'm trying really hard to
It's okay.
I'm trying really hard to rally because I'm excited to talk about all the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. But I am just like, again, I'm struggling tonight.
Yeah.
Like it's
it
been
happens. You and Gabe had to pick me up plenty of times, so I'll try to bring a little bit more energy, even though that's typically
I'm sitting
not
here
my,
like zoned out a little
not my
bit.
strong suit. But I can give you a little bit more
Let's
tonight.
do it.
But yeah, we played golf on Saturday. Had the dog sit for Anna Ruth's parents. They were in New Orleans for Jazz Fest, so
Oh,
we
what
had
a cool trip that is! I bet
3 dachshunds and our lab. So that was fun.
y'all already have a dog. You already have a dog?
Yeah, she got one in October, I think.
Oh, that's
Yellow
cool.
lab.
That's beautiful. I love
Yep.
yellow labs.
Yep.
Anyway.
She's a puppy, that's for sure.
Yeah, little crazy dog, huh?
Little crazy. She'll chill out eventually, but
Not yet.
she's a little crazy. Yeah. And then we had a crawfish bowl Saturday night for her cousin's graduation. Her twin cousin's graduation.
Her twin cousin?
Yeah, twin cousins. Yes.
Oh, I thought it was like, wait, hold on. I was like,
She has a cousin that is a twin.
That's not her twin. Is what you're okay. I got you.
Yes.
Like
Her cousins are twins of each other, not twins of her.
I'm a twin, and so like I wanted to just make sure that we had
the right vernacular there.
Yeah, that we had clarification going forward. Because I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
I get asked all the time, bro. I get asked all the time because I have a twin sister. Are y'all identical? I'm like, guys, like everything has to be identical for you to be considered identical twins.
Right.
So no, we're not identical twins.
Yeah. No, you literally have to be able to walk in the room and the next person walk in and you not be able to tell the two apart.
Right.
That's how you know.
Speaking of, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but speaking of, I tweeted it out last night. The basketball gods did the NBA fans and other teams a favor when the basketball god split the egg in Miss Thompson in her womb and created Azar and Amen Thompson. Could you imagine all of that athleticism and of that in one kid?
Person? Yeah. No, they're legit. They are 100% legit.
If Amen Thompson can learn how to shoot the ball on a consistent basis, they are going to be unguardable.
He'll be one of the best players in the league just because of what he can do athletically, defensively, as such a young guy that is still learning the ropes. Like, he'll be a freak.
So crazy, man. Anyway, we'll get to the NBA playoffs in the hot three, but
yeah, we'll talk about that in the hot three. But let's start with a little bit of Memphis news. Let's talk PJ Haggerty, Kenny, and I want you to set the stage and then we'll discuss it. So I know most of the time I roll this stuff out. I'm gonna let you roll this out because it's a little more complicated and convoluted, and I feel like you will do a great job of putting it out there.
Well, I think we can officially at this point say that the likelihood of PJ Haggerty coming back to Memphis is basically zero at this point. Like it's not going to happen unless
something crazy happens.
Unless everything goes horrifically wrong for PJ Haggerty, he will not be back at Memphis. And that's not to say that Memphis's situation is a bad situation for PJ Haggerty. I would say that PJ Haggerty has absolutely in every way mismanaged this whole situation to the point where he's basically boxed in at this point in terms of what he wants to do. And so I know Jeff Goodman has put out multiple tweets this week about the situation with PJ Haggerty. He tweeted out that NC State had made a strong push for PJ Haggerty, and that Ole Miss was in the running for PJ Haggerty. And I think we talked about this last week. You know, the whole Ole Miss situation, and man, I was going to be very disappointed if he went to Ole Miss. I was not going to be happy with that, just because 45 minutes to an hour down the street, like that's not cool. An hour and a half, right? Like in about an hour and a half down the street, like just not. You know, and the Tigers play them this year again, so in Oxford. So that was going to be an interesting dynamic. I will say, Memphis. It's been widely reported that Memphis came to PJ Haggerty with a $3 million NIL offer, which, you know, the reporting early on was that PJ wasn't looking to necessarily break the bank, that PJ Haggerty was looking for a fair market value for you know his skills at wherever he was going to play. You know, people that were playing, like other guards that, you know, where were they at? What were they making?
Comparable players.
Yeah, comparable players. What were they making? And fair market value to that. And that he wanted a strong team around him so that he can make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. So the $3 million offer has been widely reported that that's what Memphis offered PJ Haggerty, which is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Like he did not make near that at all last year with the University of Memphis. And so I think that was going to be a big upgrade in pay for him. And I will say the money was there for him. The money was there. Memphis was ready to, you know, sign the dotted line with him. We've talked about this numerous times, Christian, that PJ Haggerty's recruitment and all that was being handled by his dad, Patrick Haggerty. There were rumors and reports that people from PJ's camp were asking for $5 million. And so that was the asking offer plus a point guard position, right? Like a guaranteed point guard position. Jeff Goodman tweeted again, I think a couple of days later, that a return to Memphis was unlikely, that Ole Miss and PJ Haggerty never talked, and that NC State was heavy in the lead for PJ Haggerty's services. I can say this, that Ole Miss and PJ Haggerty did talk. They had negotiations. The negotiations did not go well. And I think I can kind of maybe shed some light on what that's all about. Ole Miss came in with a $3.5 million offer. Apparently, according to sourcing and all that kind of stuff, reporting that they offered $3.5 million. The problem is none of it, like most of it, wasn't guaranteed. There were contingencies placed in these contracts. Basically, incentive. It was an incentives-based contract, and what they were saying is that there are certain statistical numbers that you need to hit to be able to access all of the funds, all the money that
right,
we're
like any incentive-based contract.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those, from what I've heard, those statistics were about games played, minutes played, points scored per game. I think the fear coming out of PJ Haggerty's camp was that those were all statistical categories that Ole Miss and the coaching staff could
control
to
an extent.
And I think you would agree with this, and I've heard this too, that Ole Miss is kind of gaining a reputation around college basketball and football that, man, they don't really play their players what they promise them. That they're offered a certain amount and they don't actually get that. And if it's an incentives-based contract, we can kind of understand that, right? Like,
yeah,
they will do things that won't allow the players to get their entire paycheck. Memphis was not an incentives-based contract; it was $3 million, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we're at, man. But from what I understand, from what some of the word around the street is that Memphis's offer to him is now gone. They've pulled their offer. They're not pursuing PJ Haggerty anymore. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's one of those ones where it's like, look, this is what we'll do. It's the best that we can do, but we need you to make a decision.
Yeah,
for lack of a better term, like just we need to know. And I've said it for the last couple of weeks since we've been talking about it. Like, if I'm PJ, if I put myself in his shoes, like I want I want to do what's best and makes the most sense. And if it's a 2.5 million to, say it was a $2.5 million offer at Memphis and 4.5 elsewhere, then I'm taking the $2 million more to go elsewhere. But if you're looking at a 3 million, I don't know what the number is for NC State. If it's 3.5 or whatever, then it becomes a question of, okay, I don't know if I want to go play in an entirely new system, first year head coach, kind of not disarray, but just unsure because you haven't seen the product that he's put on the floor at that
Yeah.
specific school yet. Obviously, we know what he's done in his past and that he's a good coach. But at that point, if that is it, if it's $500,000 more, whatever, then to me, like, continuity would be the key there. It would be like, look, I know this coach. This coach knows me. He knows how to use me. I pretty much know the role that I'll play. Even if I do want that point guard role, maybe that can be worked in a little bit more. But at the end of the day, like, we know each other. The fans know me. The city knows me. If you're talking about it from an NIL perspective, there could be more opportunities because of that. Outside of that, that $3 million contract, there could be
Yeah.
other businesses and stuff get involved because they know you, they know what you bring, they know that you're a good representation for the university and for the basketball program.
Right.
So it just seems weird, and it kind of goes back into this national conversation of just where are where is the advice coming from, and is it sound? And I'm not saying it's not, because I don't know. I'm not behind doors. I'm not behind closed doors here in these conversations, but from certain things that we've seen
Yeah.
around college athletics, I mean, the Iamaleavas are the highlight example right now, Nico and Madden, that they clearly weren't getting good information. And even though we weren't behind closed doors here in those conversations, like, we know from what turned out that it just probably wasn't the best advice. So it just kind of continues to play into this role, into this narrative that we've talked about a lot over the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about over the coming months and over the coming years. Like, until this is more of a legit process, until there is a players union, until there are agent certifications, legit agent certifications, and actual channels that you have to go through to get these things and be certified and be legit, then players are going to continue getting bad advice. And I'm not necessarily lumping this in there completely because we don't know yet. All the stuff, all the behind closed door stuff hasn't come out, but it could be in the same vein. And that's why I'm linking it together. So I don't want people thinking that I'm saying PJ is getting terrible advice and making the wrong decision, because I'm not.
Because we don't know exactly, right? Like
Right.
we don't
No,
know
we
exactly.
don't know all the all the differences in this between other situations, but still, it's just like that could be what's happening. We don't know.
Yeah.
It's just speculating that that could be what is happening. So if it was a small money difference between it,
Yeah.
then it just feels like the right decision would have been coming to Memphis. Also, I think that's a good sign for Memphis that they were able to offer that amount of money for PJ. It kind of lets you know that if they need to bring that to the table for a specific player, they can. So I think
Oh
that's
yeah, they
that's a
can.
positive thing. But also, like, I feel like people are going to get way entrapped in this now and be very upset of, like, PJ's not coming back. This is terrible for the program. N- I don't know anybody that's really been operating under the assumption that PJ was going to come back. So I don't think this is like groundbreaking, earth shattering news that he won't be playing for Memphis this year, more than likely. I understand some people could have jumped back on that boat because we talked about it last week and it was kind of circulating a little bit. Could he come back? But it never felt inevitable and it never felt like the
No,
likeliest
no.
outcome whatsoever. So the roster wasn't built towards that up to this point. Like, we didn't look like last year with the David Jones situations. We looked for a while and said, okay, they're holding the spot for him, is what it feels like, what it looks like based on roster construction. That has not been the case this offseason. It was very clear, like, guard was very heavily invested in. A lot of different types of players were brought into the backcourt, so there was never operating under an assumption for Penny Hardaway and the staff that PJ would be a part of this roster. So I don't I don't think it should be groundbreaking news. I don't think it should make people think that this team is going to be terrible this year by any means. It's just it would have been nice to have,
Right.
obviously because of who PJ is, but like you still got to feel good about this roster and the way that it's been constructed.
Yeah.
And there was another addition.
Before we get
Oh,
into
you got
that,
something else real quick?
yeah, before we get into that, I wanted to say this. My biggest concern right now for PJ is, the reporting is, and Hitman Hoops has put, a friend of the program, Hitman Hoops has put it out tonight, that it looks like at this point, between the three schools that have been linked to PJ Haggerty, NC State, Ole Miss, and Memphis, that ultimately in the end, Memphis's $3 million offer is the highest guaranteed offer he would have received. And
Yeah.
you're with the opportunities for more, with, like you were talking about, with outside entities, right? Like companies coming in, and there were plenty of those that were ready in Memphis to like come on board with him. Which is, to me, is a sad mismanagement of the NCAA position, like the portion of his offseason, right? Like, he left Memphis to go get a bigger payday, and it looks like more than likely his former school, the one that's now rescinded their offer to him, would have ultimately been the one that would have been the most guaranteed money to him,
Just
which,
like Tennessee and Nico.
just like Tennessee and Nico, right? My biggest fear, honestly, Christian, moving forward, is that I feel like this is becoming a David Jones situation all over again. And another person that I would say is kind of becoming like, is a Lester Quinones type of situation. When Lester left early, Lester could have come back and played his senior year at Memphis, and he entered the draft. I did a few interviews with Lester during that time period after he made his decision to stay in the draft. He told me the reason why he stayed in the draft is because he was guaranteed a draft pick. Like, we will pick you at this. If you're there, we're going to pick you.
I don't know why guys still fall for that.
And guess what? They did not.
Mm-mm.
And now Lester is now making $500,000 a year playing in the NBA G League, which is $500,000 is nothing to sneeze at.
No.
But from what I can gather in terms of the PJ Haggerty situation, alongside as well as the David Jones situation, is that there was a level of manipulation, I think, done by agents that are NBA agents that are licensed. And we talk about the licensing of NIL agents and the people that are, in that role and how that needs to work. There seems to be some real sneaky stuff happening on the NBA side of it as well, with the agents that are involved, because these agents are now coming to these players, and this happened to Lester, it happened to David, and I'm afraid that it's going to happen to PJ, because PJ is now in the draft. He got invited to the combine. He'll be at the combine this year. And he's now working out specifically for teams. And and you can't hate on the kid for this, but his dream is to play in the NBA. Right. And if given the option, he would play in the NBA next year instead of playing in college basketball.
Yeah.
Which obviously, right? Like, obviously he would do that. I'm afraid that what's going to happen is that there's going to be some level of conversation on the NBA side of things where he's promised a spot, promised a pick, and it won't come to fruition. And then he'll be languishing in the G League for a couple of years instead of being able to come back, play another year of NCAA basketball, making multi-millions of dollars.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of. Because if from all the reporting, all the things that I've heard, PJ is 1000% solely focused on the NBA right now, and thinks that he's just waiting for that guarantee.
Yeah. And I mean, you talk about the agents. Agents can be slimy regardless of if they're licensed, unlicensed, or whatever else. And I don't know how this would work necessarily. Like, say that you did get an agent in college, would it carry over to the NBA? Would it not? I don't know, just because we haven't seen it yet. I mean, you would imagine somebody would probably keep the agent throughout, but is it too specialized to be a college jump to the NBA? I don't know. There's a lot of question marks there. But I would like to think that if you have legit agency at the collegiate level, then that comes into play, because you can't really be manipulated as much by an NBA agent. If you have an agent that knows, hey, look, you're probably not going to be drafted. This is what you'll make if you're not drafted, or if you're a late second round pick. This is what you'll make if you stay in college.
Right.
And I think that could help that situation. Obviously, that's so up in the air and undecided
Yeah.
at this point, that who knows, but I think that could alleviate that. Anyway, let's move on from
Yep.
PJ. This will probably be the last we talk of him until he makes a decision, or if Memphis, for some reason and some stretch of the imagination, gets involved once again, then obviously he'll come back up. But I don't see a lot of PJ talk on the horizon. So let's move on a little bit more towards this current iteration of Memphis, the roster that's currently being built. Another commit happened recently in Hasan Abdul Hakim from Rio Grande Valley. I think it was like 13-5 he averaged
13 and
last
7,
year.
13 and 7 and 3.
13, 7 and 3. And 6'8", big guard, really big, really big guard. Not just tall. This isn't like a Jonathan Pierre. Like this dude
is huge.
He is filled out. And I know the first thing that everybody says when they see this, UT Rio Grande Valley to Memphis is competition jump. And I get that, but you go look at the games that he played. I think it was Wisconsin and Creighton that he played against last year, and that was two of the best games of his entire season. I think he had 26 and 11 or something like that against Creighton.
Against Creighton, yeah.
So two of his best games the entire year were against quality opponents. I mean, those were two really solid teams. So he's played against legit competition and excelled.
Yeah.
What does that role look like at Memphis with this current backcourt? Who knows? Like, figuring this backcourt out is going to be what I would imagine at least a decently sized task for the staff to figure out, just because so many different shapes and sizes and attributes of this backcourt compared to last year. I mean, when you look at Hasan at 6'8" and Zachary Davis, I think, is 6'7". Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot more size in this backcourt, a lot more bodies in general in this backcourt, but it just shows you, like, they are totally attacking this with quality and quantity.
Yes.
A good mixture of the two, not just throwing a lot of bodies at it, but throwing a lot of guys at it that can play at this level. And then it opens the door. Do they put somebody like Hasan at the 3 in certain packages? Do they put somebody like Zachary at the 3 in certain packages? It just opens up the floor for so many more things. So I think this is another really good addition. It's hard to predict just because of the levels, regardless of how he played against top competition. How does he compete with the current guys? Do they see him as a guard? Do they want to move him to more of an off-the-ball role as a 3? Do they feel like he can fit that role? He's not a great three-point shooter by any means. I think he was like 33% last year. So not a great shooter, but can he fill that role? Do they keep him at guard? I think there's a lot of different things that you can do with him with this current roster construction. And we always talk about roster flexibility and player flexibility, and the ability to do a lot of different things. And I think he brings that.
Yeah, Roman Cleary, Bluff City Media's Tiger beat writer, in his article that he wrote on the commitment, said that from what he can gather, it looks like Memphis is targeting him to be a replacement for Nick Jourdain at the 4, which would make him a smaller 4. But you look at the size and you look at what he does in the paint, his ability to facilitate, his ability to, work around the rim, the shot making ability,
just good movement.
Yeah. So again, like you said, he's not a fantastic 3-point shooter by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it is really easy to go, who, right? Like when a guy like Hasan joins the team and you go Rio Grande Valley, like, where is that? Well, I can tell you, I lived in the Rio Grande Valley for a couple of years. It's way down south. Hit San Antonio, shake hands with Greg Popovich and the new coach, Mitch Johnson, and then go 4 hours south of that. That's where the Rio Grande Valley is. I mean, it is right down there by the tip of Mexico. And I'll say, you can look at that and go, who is this kid? And this guy can't be any good. I'm telling you, I don't know what the transition is going to be like for him going to high-level Division I basketball. It's always hit or miss. You never know. But I would suspect that he's coming into this season with a lot of expectations put on him by Penny Hardaway.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would think. Because I think they are expecting him to be a major contributor for this team this year. And I think he's got the goods to actually meet those expectations. So.
Yeah. All right. So, Kenny, we got one more piece of news, and then we will roll on to the break and then the hot three, and that is the Baha Mar tournament. The news was just broken that Memphis will be a part of that. I think current field, we said Purdue is in there.
Wake Forest
is in there. So a couple of teams already in there. It's not fully filled out yet, but that is another tournament that Memphis will be involved in. When is it? Were there dates attached to it? Because I didn't see any.
I haven't seen any dates attached to it yet. Have you ever heard of the Baha Mar tournament?
I have not.
I don't think this is the tournament that the Tigers wanted to be in, but shout out to them. They're going to the Bahamas. Nobody's complaining.
I wouldn't be.
Right?
I wouldn't be at all. Yeah, but that's pretty much all we got on that for the moment. Obviously, as more comes out, we see a filled out bracket and just more details overall on that. Then we'll continue to talk about it. But that's fresh. It's 7:50 right now, so that news just came out about 30 or 40 minutes ago.
And I will say there are rumblings about the St. Jude Tip-Off Classic coming back and a potential opponent for the Tigers. So that'll be interesting. So we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully we'll hear about that soon. But Kenny, let's take a quick break. Look at that. Can't even talk. Like I said, 7:50 Monday night. Can't talk. But we'll be back on the other side. We'll talk a little bit of NBA playoffs and some UFC when we get back with the hot three.
If the NBA had a redraft and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane were in those redrafts, Jaren Jackson Jr. would get picked 29 teams out of 30. So why are we the team that would choose it different? Now, there are admitted problems that I say are problems with Jaren and Ja, right? I think Desmond Bane is a tremendous player. I think he's a really good player. When I look at Desmond Bane, right, I say, okay, what Desmond Bane is now at 25, 26, he's going to be that exact dude. That's who he is. That's all I'm not going to say all. That's what he's going to be. Do I think that Jaren is a dog, so to speak? No, but I think he's an extremely talented player whose game clearly has a runway to it. There are clearly other things you can add to what Jaren can do, right? Offensively and defensively, I think that Jaren has not been capitalized. I think that there is a coach out there who can figure out how can I make that dude and Ja Morant look great together at the same time.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
And now the season comes to an end, and as I tell people every year, to me, personally, it's like being dumped by a girlfriend. Because for the last 6 months, man, I've been out on the road, traveling with my girlfriend. Can't even go out with my friends because I'm busy with my girlfriend. And then all of a sudden, she dumps me. So now I need a week. I need a week to decompress, see if my friends will still talk to me. You seem to have moved on pretty well. You look great.
The thing about me is I have something else that I truly love. I'll miss what that could have looked like, but the alternative for me is not a bad one.
See, I can't just get out and start working in the yard. That's what I'm talking about. Give me a few days. I mean, I was just at the Waldorf Astoria 3 days ago. Give me a week.
Tune in to the Night Court Podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Hey, let's go. We back, baby. Oh, that went way low. I'm still not used to these sliders, man. These sliders, you press a button and they just go crazy. Anyway,
Jack it up.
They just jack it up. Anyway, let's get to the hot three. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
We're in the conference semifinals in the NBA playoffs, man. What are your thoughts? We got the Eastern Conference basically went all chalk. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all in the conference finals. The Thunder and the Nuggets are chalk. They're playing against each other in the conference finals. And now, I think is it tonight? No, when is it? May 6th is the Timberwolves and the Warriors
Yes. Tonight's the Nuggets Thunder.
Nuggets
Game
Thunder.
one.
That's going to be a fun game. Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you this. So right now the Knicks and Celtics are playing. The Celtics are up 81-70. I have a feeling the Celtics are going to sweep through that real fast. Like that's not going to be that's going to be a quick.
Yeah. Probably 5. I think they'll probably win in 5. But overall, I do want to talk about the first round because typically we glance over it. We don't talk about it. We were treated to one of the better first rounds of NBA playoffs I can remember. I mean, we had a great series between the Nuggets and the Clippers that was fun all the way throughout. And then you get a Game 7 blowout, which is kind of disappointing.
Right.
And then Warriors-Rockets was 1, and it looked like the Warriors were going to close that one out. The Rockets come back and win 2. It goes back to Houston for Game 7, and we get the Buddy Hield game where he puts up 33 points.
33 points.
9. I think it was a 9 for 11 from 3.
It's just dumb.
In the game. So those were 2 really fun series. We talked about it last week. The Wolves and the Lakers wasn't really close as far as games go. I mean, it was 4-1. But individual games, a lot of them were really close. The Knicks-Pistons was a really close, hard-fought series that could have went either way. So it was a really good overall.
You didn't mention the Thunder
1.
and the Grizzlies. You didn't mention the Thunder and Grizzlies.
There was no need. Just like I didn't mention the Magic and the Celtics either because there was no need. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Boston will roll probably all the way to the finals. Maybe maybe they get tested a little bit in the Eastern Conference Finals, but with Cleveland being beat up, Evan Mobley status being up in the air for Game 2 after they lost Game 1 to the Pacers.
Tough.
I think the Pacers are a lot better team than people realize and give them credit for. Tyrese Halliburton is not like the most well-known player in the league, definitely not the most beloved player in the league. He's pretty hated. But he's an incredible player. I mean, he does everything. He does absolutely everything. He's kind of like an SGA light.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, he affects the game in a lot of different ways. He doesn't have to score to affect it. He can do a little bit of everything. But then you got Pascal Siakam, who's one of the most underrated players in the entire league.
That's true.
I love what he brings. Miles Turner is still there, being okay. Not anything special, but he's
being
okay.
fine.
Overall, it's just like the Pacers have always been. Like, literally, since I can really remember watching basketball, like they've always been a pretty good team, and I think they're pretty good once again. So we'll see that series. I mean, it looked like Cleveland was probably going to be able to roll pretty easily also into the Eastern Conference Finals, but I really think Indiana is going to give them a series. I mean, they took Game 1, and one of their best players, one of Cleveland's best players, unknown if he'll play in Game 2 in Cleveland. So we'll see. I'm not really that intrigued by the Eastern Conference, though. I don't think anybody is. But the Western Conference, the Nuggets and Thunder series should be really good. I mean, it's your 2 MVP front runners.
Yep.
Arguably the 2 best players in the entire league right now. And then you get, to me, like a really fun series between Minnesota and Golden State. 2 teams that don't like each other
at all.
They do not like each other. It'll be fun watching Julius Randle, Draymond Green, Rudy Gobert. I'm sure there'll be some explosion between those players at some point. And then you kind of have like the old guard and the new guard between Anthony Edwards and Steph Curry. So it'll be a fun series. I think Minnesota probably wins it in 6.
You think so?
I think so. I just don't think Golden State has it. But, I say that, but I will say, like, they still have Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
Who is incredible in the playoffs. They still have Stephen Curry, who even at 37 years old is one of the best players in the league.
He's so crazy.
They still have Draymond Green for, as much hate as he gets, can affect the series in so many ways that does not show up on a stat sheet, and ways that do show up on a stat sheet because he does do a little bit of everything. Buddy Hield's always been a microwave. We saw it in Game 7 the other night. So I think both of those series are going to be really fun, really competitive. But it's hard for me not to see the Thunder still winning that series. I mean, you got to think about it. At least in the beginning, the Thunder are coming off of just a butt whooping of the Grizzlies, as everybody in this city knows. 10 days off, and the Nuggets are playing 48 hours after a very, very tightly contested, difficult, gritty series against the Clippers and it's tough to bounce back from that. Both of the Western Conference games I'm talking about, I think Minnesota had a week off, and it's 48 hours for the Warriors, and then you had 10 days off for the Thunder and 48 hours off for the Nuggets. So, what do you? How are you feeling about round 2?
I'm going to stick in the Western Conference because, again, I think I'm not really that emotionally invested into the Eastern Conference.
No.
I think we're going to see Cleveland and more than likely Cleveland and Boston in the finals of the Eastern Conference Finals. Pacers have a good shot, but it depends on, I guess, Evan Mobley's situation depends on all that. But it's that Thunder and that Nuggets series that really intrigues me because the Nuggets have a lot of the same kind of players that the Thunder have in terms of the athletic wing that can get off the dribble, that aren't your big name dudes like Isaiah Joe, even Jalen Williams, who's phenomenal basketball player. But they can match size for size. The biggest matchup nightmare in that entire series,
I know exactly where you're going,
is who is going to stop Nikola Jokic.
Yeah,
like Isaiah Hartenstein's phenomenal, right? Like he's a great player, but who? Like not even that. Well, let's even go deeper than that. Who is like the front court of the Denver Nuggets? Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic. I don't think Chet Holmgren is a good player, and
but it's the physicality.
The way those two dudes play. I don't see Hartenstein and Holmgren being able to handle that for an entire series. And so, like, as good as Oklahoma City is, and I think they are a buzzsaw of a team. They are so good. Defensively, they can do things that take teams out of their rhythm. You saw it all year. 56 games this year, they won by 20 points or more.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, when you have guys like you mentioned, Jalen Williams and Lou Dort, and guys that can just frustrate the heck out of you defensively. It opens up the question. Okay, you face the question of the front court for the Nuggets, but then I'll face the question for the back court of the Nuggets versus the Thunder back court with Lou Dortz and those kind of guys that they have, and the way that Jamal Murray played in round 1 outside of Game 5 when he had 43. Like Jamal Murray hit like
hurt.
him. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so is MPJ. I think there are reports Michael Porter Jr. can't even like take his own jersey off right now. That's how banged up he is. But typically Jamal Murray is like up there with Jimmy Butler and Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic and Donovan Mitchell for like the best players in the playoffs. Jamal Murray is usually ridiculous.
You remember that series with him in was it the Cleveland series? No, was it Utah? When Donovan Mitchell
and Mitchell were like trading 50-point games. Yes, it was incredible.
Dumb.
But with him not being 100%, with Michael Porter Jr. not being 100%, Aaron Gordon really stepped up in that series. Christian Brown really stepped up in that series against the Clippers. And to me, like a guy like Christian Brown is really the X factor in the series.
I agree.
Because Nikola Jokic is going to get his. He's going to do his thing. Aaron Gordon was pretty consistent in that series. If Lou Dort takes out Jamal Murray and with injuries being involved as well, and Michael Porter Jr. is up and down like he was in that series, like Christian Brown is going to kind of have to be that third guy. And can he do it? Because we know Oklahoma City has
multiple third guys.
Multiple. So can they keep up with them? Is the real question. I think it's a very intriguing series because you have very different styles of teams overall. And strengths don't really align. It's not strength versus strength in most portions. It's like SGA is way above what Denver has in the backcourt, even though they have good backcourt players. And then for the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic is far ahead of what Oklahoma City has in the front court, even though they have really good players in the front court. So it's not a strength versus strength thing. It's a little bit different, but
it's kind of a mid versus mid. Like whose mid player can be the best?
Yes. Who's 3 through 6 can be the best in the series, because SGA is going to get his, Jokic is going to get his. Who can elevate their play to win their team the series? But I think it's going to be a great series. I would say the Thunder probably win just because of a couple factors. Like I mentioned, just the fatigue factor, and we kind of saw at times the Nuggets just looked a little labored. I think it's because of injury also. So injury and fatigue, and then also just not having a coach. It it's different in the NBA versus college, obviously, but still, like not having Michael Malone, the presence that you've had there, for Jamal Murray and Jokic's entire careers and other guys on the team, Michael Porter Jr.'s entire career.
Right.
Does that show up? I don't think we saw it a ton in the Clippers series. Coaching wasn't a huge issue, but it can. So it is a factor. But I'm excited for the second round. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
I think this has been that first round set the stage for a really good rest of the playoffs. And I think the best teams are in there, right? Like I think everybody would have expected the Clippers to beat the Nuggets, especially with all the stuff that's going on with their team behind the scenes and stuff like that. But it just shows the power of Nikola Jokic, man.
Yeah.
Just how phenomenal he is.
Yeah.
Right.
And as much as I love Jokic, like I really do think at this point I'm rooting for a Thunder Wolves series in the West and a Cavs Celtics series in the East. Like I think that's I mean, you got to think if it came to, and we'll move on because there's no sense in going too deep into this, but like you think about a Thunder Wolves series, that'd be a lot of fun. Like that is between 3 of those 4 teams, because the Cavs don't really have like a potential quote unquote face of the league.
Right.
But if it comes down to like, if it is those 4 teams, then you're looking at the Celtics with Tatum and Brown, you're looking at the Wolves with Ant and the Thunder with the SGA, and it's kind of like a Grand Prix almost for face of the league, like who is taking over as the face of the league, and all those guys have good cases. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. There will obviously be a lot of storylines throughout the playoffs, as there always are. But looking forward, go ahead.
We do this we've had this conversation, I don't think between us, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Can a non-American player be the face of the league?
Yeah.
Think so?
I mean, yeah, why not?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a difficult conversation, right? Because has there ever been, like, not off the top of my head, like, no. But it's different if it's somebody like Jokic will never be the face of the league, but it's not because he's not American. It's because he just doesn't care. Like if you had Anthony Edwards' attitude in Nikola Jokic, he would have been the face of the league.
Oh my God.
And you can almost kind of make the same case for SGA. Like SGA is so laid back, but I don't think it'd be Canadian that would keep him from being the face of the league. Like I don't think because you don't look or listen to SGA and go, that guy's not from America. You can listen to Luka or Jokic and say, okay, that guy's obviously not an American, but it's different. It's different for SGA. Like SGA, you're not like, oh yeah, that guy immediately, that guy's Canadian. Yeah. So I think it can be. It just would have to be the right circumstance. But I think everybody in the NBA, at least, like where the money comes from, is hoping it's Anthony Edwards. Don't you 100%. Think? Don't you think?
Even though that dude is crazy.
Yeah, but I'm not saying Adam Silver specifically or anything like that. But as far as marketing dollars probably Adam Silver actually is number 1 on that list of like, I want Anthony Edwards to be the dude because he knows that guy can draw, just like any of the other faces of the league have been throughout. Like he can draw. People will tune in to watch Anthony Edwards because you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know what he's going to say. He can do a little bit of everything. So anyway, that was
I will say there's only one player that I think that could bridge that gap for NBA fans moving forward, and the companies that would make him the face, and that's Wemby. I think Wemby's talent level is so high, and his dominance in the next couple of years is going to be so massive. Yeah, that just because he's French doesn't mean
doesn't matter. Yeah, no,
I
agree.
Think he's the one guy.
I agree, and I mean, we say there's never been a face of the league that's been not an American. Dirk might have been for like a couple of years.
I don't know, man. I mean, Kobe was still in there. Kobe was in the league then.
Yeah. He was up there. I mean, he was right there though.
Oh yeah. There's a lot.
Like the year they won the finals, he was at least face of the league for like half a year.
LeBron was there already.
Oh, you're right.
Dwayne was there already.
Yeah. You're right.
I don't know. It's interesting though.
It is.
It's an interesting conversation. All right, let's move on to the next topic.
Let's
move it back closer to home. Thankfully, the Grizzlies are awesome. They dropped at like 2:43 on Friday afternoon through Shams that Tuomas Iisalo was named the Grizzlies head coach. And then Shams reported later on that without doing a coaching search, that Zach Kleiman made this decision. What are your thoughts on it initially, like off the rip? Like, well, not off the rip. You had a couple of days to think about this. We did on Bluff City Media, we did a big live about it. We had some pretty heated back and forth because there's a lot of the folks at Bluff City Media are out on this. There's a lot that are in on it that think that this is inevitable, I guess. What were your thoughts when you heard Tuomas Iisalo was named the head coach?
Yeah, I think it definitely was inevitable. Like, it was the plan, and that's kind of what I want to center the conversation on, because I don't know.
We don't know
how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
But we talked about this very briefly before we started recording, that clearly this was the plan all along.
100%.
This is what they were going to. No coaching search just kind of reaffirms that this was the plan all along. It reaffirms that this is why Taylor Jenkins was fired with 9 games left to go in the season. And I get it. Like, it's not a bad thing to have your next guy earmarked. But usually I feel like when that happens, it's, okay, this guy just happened, we hired a coach. This guy was on the staff, and we saw him kind of grow and learn. And it was, okay, when this coach is ready to go, or it's his time, this guy's already the next guy.
There's a succession plan, basically.
Yes. This was way different than a succession plan, right? Like, the Grizzlies went and handpicked
Yes.
for Iisalo to come over and work under Taylor Jenkins. And in my opinion, if they knew that they wanted him,
Yes.
they eventually wanted him to be the head coach, just do it on the front end and save all of this nonsense. Because this was a lost year anyway.
100%.
And we've said that way too much over the last several years for the Grizzlies. And if you felt that the culture was off, that's something that we've heard a lot, that the culture was just entirely off this year. Whether that be because of this situation or something Taylor Jenkins was doing, or the players, or whatever the factors are to it, if you knew there was already trouble in paradise and you did not want Taylor Jenkins to be the coach, and you go handpick another coach and you buy him out, bring him over, just go ahead and put him in that position.
Can I make a counterpoint to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not even just to even like maybe broaden your statement a little bit. You called this season a lost year for the Grizzlies. Basically insinuating that they should have done it already because it was already a lost season for the Grizzlies. My response to that is the decision to not fire Taylor Jenkins immediately caused it to be a lost season.
Yeah, I wasn't saying coming into this year it was a lost season, because it wasn't.
Right.
I mean, you didn't know that coming in, that it was going to turn out the way that it did. But you kind of set it in motion to do that, right?
100%.
Like, by not putting the guy that you really wanted in there and almost hoping Taylor Jenkins imploded and the season imploded so you could put this guy in.
Right.
It's all backwards. Like, if you were already not happy with Taylor Jenkins, which you would think that they probably were not heading into this season.
Clearly they weren't. Yeah.
And already having a succession plan, but not in the typical way, then just go ahead and make that change and bring in the guy that you think can be the next guy. Like, you just don't get a trial run if you do something like this, and if they were strong enough to go ahead and buy him out instead of letting his contract expire because they feared that other teams would get involved and bring him in,
right,
and you feel that strongly about somebody, then make them your head coach and take that risk.
Yes.
It's just like everything else we talk about with Zach Kleiman. They are so averse to taking risks and taking swings on things. It's why they, kept the high pick with Zaire Williams and drafted him, and didn't use that pick to aggressively go get, an established player and copy and paste that for Zach Edey, and a bunch of other scenarios where they could have been aggressive in helping this team in the now, instead of trying to continue to build for this future that no one can even see anymore because the vision has become so cloudy. Do things on the front end. Be aggressive on the front end and take your swings, and if you feel so strongly about something, be confident in the decision.
Imagine that, like, and I want before I say all this, I want to say this in a respectful way. I think the media, and we are a part of it. We have guys, Pear Sharkey, fantastic beat writer for Bluff City Media for the Grizzlies. Tons of people who do a really good job of covering the Grizzlies in the media. But imagine this type of scenario had played out in, say, Dallas with the Dallas Cowboys. And you saw a clear break between the front office, between Jerry Jones and the coach. Jerry Jones went in and fired all of the coach's assistants and said, I'm bringing my guys in. I got this one guy who's going to be the assistant to the head coach. He's going to be the top assistant guy. Everybody knowing full well this is the next guy, right? Like, this is the next guy. And then all of a sudden, all these things implode. Inevitably, the lame duck situation causes it. Could you imagine the response that would have been given if that had happened? Like, what? That would have been, I feel like Jerry Jones has been like widely mocked and ridiculed for a lot of decisions that he's made. This would have been probably the biggest one, right?
Yeah.
And yet, people are acting like the way this played out in Memphis was normal. Like,
yeah.
And it just really frustrates me, I think, that it feels like the Grizzlies in a lot of ways are ran in a very amateurish way.
Yeah, no, and that's what this feels like, and I think that's why it is so frustrating, because you could have avoided all of this. You could have completely skipped everything that's happened over the last month and a half, 2 months, if you would have just acted on the front end. And like I said, it's kind of repetitive now, but just being confident in your decision.
Yeah.
If that's what you felt the case to be, that you would rather have Iisalo over Taylor Jenkins, then you do that.
Yeah. And again, this is not neither one of us are sitting here saying that Tuomas Iisalo is not going to be a good head coach. He could absolutely be a great head coach. His resume speaks for itself. Right. Like,
it's nothing against him. This is all Zach Kleiman.
This is Kleiman, man.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Last topic. Let's move on. Is it UFC 315? It's so bad. I don't even know the numbers anymore. UFC 315 is happening this weekend.
Yeah.
Bilal Muhammad is fighting
Jack Della Maddalena.
Della Maddalena. Say it again. Maddalena. Run through the card for me real quick. Who's fighting? Who are you interested in? I know we talked about this earlier. I'm sorry.
That's it.
Is that it?
That's it. Yeah. I mean, Valentina Shevchenko's defending her belt, but
Gilbert Burns is fighting this weekend.
No, he's off.
Oh, that fight got canceled, didn't it?
Yeah. Jose Aldo.
Yeah.
Alexa Grasso, Benoit Saint Denis.
This leads me to another question. Like, listen, shout out to all these fighters who are fighting, who have been in training camp for the last 12 weeks, who are getting ready to go. Bilal Muhammad, fantastic fighter, but just not a big name yet. There's a lot of people who just don't really necessarily like his style. He's kind of a lay and pray, not really a finisher, that kind of stuff. I think Jack Della Maddalena, how do you say his name?
Jack Della Maddalena, JDM.
Thank you. He's a fantastic fighter. Does a lot of things really well. I just seriously doubt he can beat Bilal if Bilal just hugs him to the ground. That's what's going to happen. But the question is, and we had this conversation prior, and both of us are massive UFC fans, right? Like, we're UFC. We've been covering cards and watching cards, and we watch fights all the time.
Yeah.
There has not been many cards in the last probably
year
that have been exciting.
Yeah.
And I guess my question to you is, Christian, and I know we're going to get so much hate from UFC diehards. They're going to say, you're not real fans.
Which we are.
We are. Like, we know a lot. I don't know how to say Jack Maddalena's name, but we're all fans here.
You're not helping your case, but
I'm trying. But as the UFC, man, it just feels like the UFC is putting out a lukewarm product right now. Why?
I don't think the UFC is putting out a lukewarm product necessarily. I think the product is still a very high quality, but I just don't think they have the names right now that they have over the last several years. And I think it's cyclical. I think it just happens that way in general because you'll have a rush and influx of young up and coming guys that come through, and you just hope when that happens, you still have your marquee stars at the top, which has typically been the case. I mean, when guys like Sean O'Malley were coming up, you still had your stars in place where they could be the second or third. They could be in the co-main or the fight before that, and you still had bigger fights and bigger stars ahead of them. And you just don't really have that right now. Yep. You have a couple of stars still remaining, I guess. I mean, Dustin Poirier is about to fight his last fight in a couple months against Max Holloway. That's another one that they're about to lose. That's tough. I mean, with Francis being gone, John not being active, Kamaru Usman fell way down the ranks.
Izzy doing what? Yeah,
Izzy has not the same fighter anymore. Even Alexander Volkanovski, who just won his title back, still doesn't bring the same allure anymore because now he's lost fights, and so you just have a lack of star power at the top. And that causes you to have to spread everything out, right? Like you can't. I think we got so spoiled by having so many stars and it being like, man, there's 3 fighters on this card that are big names, and they could do that every month for the pay-per-views, and now they can't do that. Yeah. And then also they're trying to build back up the fight nights, and now they're kind of in the influx with contract with not being with. I think the ESPN contract is up. That's correct?
It is up.
Right?
It's a negotiation right now.
Right. They have that going on. So any of their week, they're trying to stagger everybody to their weekly events where they don't have like pay-per-views are way up here and fight nights are way down here. They're trying to spread all that out. So I think it's a lot of factors, but it's just not the same as it was a year or 2 years ago. It'll get back to that. Like I have full faith that it'll get back to that. But it's just not there right now. So it's hard to be like all in. It's hard to watch the countdown every single month for the pay-per-view when you go,
who?
Yeah, it just doesn't do anything for me, like, so I've been that way for a minute now. I know you've been that way too. So I don't think it's the product. I think you can go still watch,
the fights are still fun.
Right.
They're still fun to watch.
But the allure is not the same when you don't have the big names and the big storylines and things like that. So
who are some of the next guys up that you think are the big name guys that are going to push this thing forward? The allure guys.
Right now, I don't really know. I really don't. I really can't look out there and say, these are the next few. I mean, I think they're really hoping Ian Gary is that guy. I think they're really hoping Paddy Pimblett is that guy.
I think Paddy. You know who else I think?
Who?
Because I think when this fight is announced, I think he's going to win this fight. I think Tom Aspinall is the next guy. Big, heavyweight.
Yeah.
Fantastic striker. Can talk well. Can speak well. Can do all those kinds of things. I think. Look at the British fighting right now. Paddy Pimblett and I think Tom Aspinall are two guys that I would really. The concerning thing to me is that you still talk about like the biggest star is a guy who hasn't fought in 7 years, and that's Conor McGregor. Right? Like every time his name is mentioned, people freak out, and it's like that to me is less about Conor McGregor and more about the fact that there's just not anybody else that drives those names like that. You know what I'm saying? Like there's those fighting nerds guys from the fighting nerds camp. There's a couple of guys. There's he fought a couple weeks ago and just laid to waste. I forgot his name. That's part of the problem, but just fantastic fighters coming up, but they just haven't hit that special place yet in terms of guys who can drive, viewers, drive the storylines, those kinds of things. That's just kind of where it's at right now.
And I think Marlon Moraes was another guy that was supposed to fight this weekend against Gilbert Burns. Like you mentioned, I think he's another up-and-coming guy, but that's really the ones that you can think of right now. And I mean, obviously there are a lot of other good fighters, but it's about the actual star power and the actual draw. Like really Paddy, Ian Gary, Tom Aspinall, like that's the list that I can get off the top of my head. Like even look, Raul Rosas, I guess, is another one.
Yeah.
That could be. I mean, I know he gets a lot of attention, so he could be another one of those guys. So there are a few, but how long does it take for them to get there? You know, and Sean O'Malley's still another one. You know, like he's going to fight I think next month for the title again, and if he wins the title back from Rob, then he's back with the rocket ship on his back. So there are some things they'll get out of this eventually. It's just in a time right now where it's just not as exciting as it was a couple of years ago.
Well, if he had come into the UFC 5 years earlier, Alex Pereira would be the biggest star the UFC's ever made. Like, that's ever come out of the UFC, I think. He's just that guy. Like, he's the dude that drives everything.
And he was but he just lost.
Right.
You know, so he was another one that was really building up, and he lost. And when you lose, you lose a lot of that luster. A lot of that. I mean, Usman's a perfect example. Like, he was one of the top stars, and then once he lost, it kind of fell apart. Izzy, another one. So they'll get back. It's just not the same right now, but we'll get there. All right, well, that wraps it up for tonight. We appreciate you guys for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment there. If you are listening via podcast, whether that's on Apple, Spotify, or any other platform, you can do the same things there. Once again, we appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.